we have no choice but to drive Saddam from Kuwait by force. We will not fail.
There's another side to the F-16, a side that can't be seen at air shows or public displays. It's not just a beautiful aircraft, it's also a brutal weapon of war. The ruthless nature of the fighting Falcon was revealed when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait in August 1990. When President Bush made his promise, it was up to the F-16 to keep it. Heading into the unknown, waiting for a turn on the fuel boom, pilots wondered about the mission ahead. Would their aircraft, their training, and their weapons do the job? Or would the Iraqis have a surprise for them in the desert skies? After their non-stop flight, the Falcons landed at modern air bases like Al-Kahar in Saudi Arabia and joined the growing coalition air forces. 8 days after Iraq invaded Kuwait, F-16s were sitting, alert, with weapons loaded. By the time the deployment was over, the United States had moved 249 F-16s into the Gulf War theater. The might of America's air power would all jostle for tarmac and hangar space as the rhythm of war accelerated.
East of that point, about 500 feet, 2828, be on that creek prior to getting to that point. Check in. First point, road 2, we've all looked at it a lot. Do that to make it on time. Just on the other side of the driveway, should be pointing just barely to the right of Shadow Mountain.
January 17, 1991, the air war began. America's airmen felt the cold chill of anticipation and the hot rush of combat in the first few hours. The first F-16 strike packages took off at 4 a.m., rendezvousing in the dark with tanker aircraft and their fighter aircraft. The formation crossed the Iraqi border at first light and was hitting its targets at sunrise. No doubt you've seen how precision-guided munitions could zero in on Iraqi bunkers, command posts, and armor. For the F-16, the air war was usually less dramatic, but often more important. Dogfighting is what the F-16 was built for, and what it's best at. But in the Gulf War, by far the most important role it played was as a fighter bomber. The first priority was the defense suppression mission, knocking out the thousands of Iraqi surface-to-air and anti-aircraft artillery sites in Kuwait and Iraq itself. The acronym the Air Force used was SEAD, or Suppression of Enemy Air Defenses. The F-16 went into battle with an M61A1 Vulcan 20mm cannon, AIM-9 Sidewinder air-to-air missiles, Mark 82 500-pound bombs, Mark 84 2,000-pound bombs, CBU-87 tactical munitions dispensers, high-speed anti-radiation missiles, and older cluster bombs left over from the Vietnam era. The part played by in-flight refueling was one of the least publicized aspects of Desert Storm. However, many coalition aircraft, including F-16s, would take off without full fuel in order to carry more weapons. They had to mid-air refuel before entering hostile airspace. Depending on the amount of evasive action that they had to take, they would probably require a fuel top-up on the way home as well.
Coming up on the right, sir.
Okay, we've got another 5 coming up over here on the right. You 2 go to the lead tanker, you 2 go to the number 2 tanker, and they'll brief a port or starboard hose. So, you know, they have a hose to go to, that's what they go to.
Okay, that's you coming up on your left, sir. That's
Okay.
ADL out of your craft.
Yeah, I've got 2 F-18s down here on my left. Can you get that, Dave?
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a pretty day, isn't it?
Positive contact.
Bunker, it's got 237 good day.
He understands contact, Ponca.
Flight 43 will be in railroad. Plus 56. Base plus 56.
Okay. A little bit high, count 3.
Yeah, sorry guys, lit flash. I thought maybe a bit of reserve out there.
There's 2,500 he needs more. That's good. Cheers, well through.
Thinking about jets swooping in on targets at a few hundred feet? Think again. The typical fighter-bomber target entry height was 20,000 feet, and pullout height was 15,000 feet. Instead of attacking specific targets, the Falcons would be directed to kill boxes, 30 miles by 30 miles square. The pilot has begun his attack run and is lining up on the target. Bombs away. The Falcon stands on its wing to see where the bomb has impacted. There. High-altitude bombing like this was necessary in the first few weeks of the war because of the tremendous volume of anti-aircraft fire at lower altitudes. British and French Jaguar and Tornado fighters went in at low level and suffered severely from anti-aircraft defenses.
We must be realistic. There will be losses. There will be obstacles along the way. And war is never cheap or easy.
As the pressure mounted on the Iraqis, the weight of AAA diminished, and the F-16s attacked at lower and lower altitudes themselves. By the time the war was over 43 days later, F-16s would fly 13,500 combat missions, deliver 20,000 tons of bombs, more than 40% of the total drop by the U.S. Air Force, and win praise as the backbone of the coalition's air effort. One reason for the high sortie rate was the rapid turnaround at facilities like this hot pit refueling site. Just as in the Second World War, pilots stayed in their aircraft with the engines running while they took on fuel in order to maximize airtime. When the Gulf War ended, the Fighting Falcon emerged with the highest sortie rate and mission capability rate of all participating coalition fighters. The job had to be done. The F-16 and its aircrew were ready, willing, and able to do it. This is Italy, 1993. And just a few short minutes across the Adriatic Sea is Bosnia-Herzegovina, a land ripped apart, religious hatred, ethnic cleansing, brutal atrocities. How can an aircraft end man's inhumanity to man? From transmitters to bunkers, vehicle parks to ammo dumps, all the assets of the former Yugoslavian army lay open to the air. The Serbs knew this and would try to defend them. Flying on behalf of the United Nations in Operation Deny Flight, the F-16 would have to show the Serbs they had no chance of winning. On February 28, 1994, 2 United States F-16s shot down 4 Serbian aircraft in the no-fly zone. One of the F-16s used 2 AIM-9 missiles, and the other an AMRAAM, an advanced medium-range air-to-air missile, marking the F-16's third combat victory with AMRAAM and the first triple kill by a U.S. Air Force pilot since the Korean War. By August 1996, the 42 F-16s of the 31st Fighter Wing had flown 4,146 sorties in Operation Deny Flight, a grand total of 12,698 mission hours. In the Gulf War, F-16s operated largely in free fire zones where most ordnance was dropped on targets of opportunity. That's possible in a wide-ranging desert war, but it wasn't possible in the former Yugoslavia, where innocent civilians were often mere yards for potential antagonists. The solution was to upgrade the F-16 so it could navigate with pinpoint accuracy and then take on targets identified by observers on the ground. The upgrade involved two pieces of specialized equipment: IDM target handoff devices and the low-altitude navigation and targeting infrared for night system known as Lantern. The IDM units allow ground observers to designate targets and have this information displayed in the aircraft head-up display. The Lantern system, deployed in an underwing pod, allows pilots to fly in the dark at low altitude through mountainous terrain. 38 operational F-16Cs and Ds were modified to accept IDM, as well as Lantern, precision-guided munitions, the high-speed anti-radiation missile called HARM, and pod-carried electro-optical reconnaissance sensors, among other things. Many commentators predicted trying to end the Bosnian War with air power was doomed to failure. In fact, the mission was a brilliant success, bringing home to Serb soldiers and leaders alike there was nowhere to hide. The certain knowledge a 500-pound bomb could be tossed into their command post made the warring leaders see sense. On April 10, 1994, United States F-16s dropped 3 500-pound bombs on Serb ground targets while flying combat air patrol missions. The war in Bosnia pointed out the great strengths of the F-16. Because it can carry a tremendous load under its wings, it can be tailored to carry out any kind of offensive or defensive role. The F-16 can carry more than 50 different types of external ordnance, targeting pods, surveillance equipment, and fuel containers. But while Lockheed Martin has been working to hang new and ever more lethal equipment under the F-16's wings, it's also been re-engineering and re-engining the plane to provide improved fight and flight capabilities. The F-16 was a revolutionary aircraft from the beginning, a major reversal in fighter design. It emphasized flight performance in the heart of the flight envelope, where air combat occurs. Its design allows sustained 9G maneuvering even when carrying full fuel and air-to-air missiles. One of the most exciting joint programs in flight testing now is to design and build a thrust vectoring system which will increase the F-16's already awesome dogfighting capability. The F-16 is now the world's most sought-after fighter, with more than 3,500 flying with 19 different air forces. The F-16 must be a frontrunner for the title of most versions in the shortest time. Probably the most radical redesign is this F-16 XL, codenamed Scamp. Technologies learned from this aircraft will be incorporated into future F-16s and the new FSX fighter being developed in Japan. To maintain the capabilities of any high-performance aircraft in an ever-changing threat environment requires continual testing of new upgrades and new specialized mission applications. Flight testing of all F-16 variants is conducted at the F-16 Combined Test Force Flight Test Center at Fort Worth, Texas, and at Edwards Air Force Base, California. The F-16 Combined Test Force is now flying more F-16 flight hours than when the aircraft was in full-scale development over 18 years ago. Some 20 pilots and 15 fully instrumented aircraft are committed to these F-16 test programs. The Variable Stability In-Flight Simulator Test Aircraft, or VISTA, which you see here, is a highly modified one-of-a-kind F-16D that is being used to flight test a thrust vectoring system and the flight control computers for the new F-22 Advanced Tactical Fighter. New weapon systems, new thrust vectoring, new variants. It's no wonder the F-16 will be the United States Air Force's primary fighter until at least the year 2020. The future, meanwhile, is almost here.